Failure is not an option in the sense of you only fail when you quit and you give up. The reason I went into the writing, one, was because I had a natural affinity towards it. And two, when you are an actor, you are merely a vehicle to tell somebody else's story. It's not about you. I try not to look at a person and judge them based on what I can't necessarily understand or where they seem to be right now. I actually listen to what the person is saying and listen to their drive and ambition. But success to me is when you're actually making those steps towards the things that actually give you fulfillment and desire in life.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Need to Succeed podcast. And on here, what we do is have conversations with incredible entrepreneurs and just to understand what is their mindset. Because here's what happens. Two people can go through the exact same situation. And one person decides because of this situation, they can no longer achieve the things that they've wanted to achieve in their lives. But because of the same situation, the other person decides that they absolutely have to achieve everything that they've ever wanted in their life. Same situation, different outcome. What is the mindset of the successful individual? That is exactly what we look to uncover on the Need to Succeed podcast. And today, we have an absolutely incredible guest. He is a scriptwriter, a social entrepreneur, and a branding expert. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. CJ Lloyd Webley.
Thank you. Quite an introduction there. Yeah. I like it.
I like to give it a little boxing intro. You know what I'm saying? It's coming like, yes, that's me.
Yeah. Nah,
awesome, bro. First of all, thank you so much for coming down, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure. No worries, bro. You're a busy guy. This day, that day, we'll be just back and forth. Yeah. But we made it. And you're not just busy being busy. You're doing a lot, bro. You're doing a lot, man. It's incredible to see. Okay, cool. Let's get this. Let's do this, right? Now, we've got a tradition on the podcast. Yeah. There's a tradition. 2 questions. One at the start and one at the end. Those are the only 2 set questions we have. So let's go for the very first one. What does success mean to you?
Success to me is when you have time to do the things that you actually enjoy. I think a lot of us are running around looking busy, but actually when you get down to the crux of it, what are we really doing? You know, a lot of us are doing things that don't give us fulfillment, that don't actually help us move forward in any particular way towards the life that we want to live. So I think success to me is when you're actually making those steps towards the things that actually give you fulfillment and desire in life. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. It makes a lot of sense, bro. You know, listen, that's the truth, because we know people who've made millions, billions, and then when it comes to it, once they give up that thing they've been chasing their whole lives and they go and sit on the beach for a month or 2 months, 3 months.
That's it.
Depression kicks in.
That's it.
They feel like there's nothing left, right? Because there's nothing to chase anymore.
That's it.
You know, a lot of people sitting at home will be looking at this going, no. Success means a whole lot of money in my pocket. That sounds like success, right? But listen.
So we solved it now, so I'm done.
Done. But that's the truth, though. You know what I'm saying? It's about chasing something, that makes you feel good. Absolutely. Something fulfilling. And listen, I'm an entrepreneur. We're entrepreneurs. So a part of that is going to be that financial reward, because at the end of the day, we've got food to put on the table. Absolutely. We've got to pay bills. So yes, there's that monetary element, but that's not the success, right? Yep. It's what can I do with money so I can feed myself? That's it. Right? I can have holidays, so I can do the things I want to do. I can take my daughter to wherever I want to go. If I want to say, you know what, I'm not working today, I want to chill with my daughter, I'm going to do that. So it's not really the money, it's the things that I value. That's really where the success is, right? Yeah. So I couldn't agree more, bro. 100%. Awesome, bro. I'll be honest, bro. Like watching your stuff, I'm looking. I'm like, this guy's funny. Like he's doing this a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? But when I met you just now, you told me actually I'm a little bit introverted. I'm like, that's not what I see. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, it's really, really interesting. I want to get down to how did you come to become who you are today? So let's just take a little walk down memory lane just to understand you a little bit. Like, who was CJ Lloyd Webley. I'm sure that's not how you used to introduce yourself back in school. There's like
just CJ.
When the teacher comes, like, what's your name? CJ Lloyd Webley. Like, what?
I wish I had that confidence.
Can you imagine? So like, who were you back in school, for example?
So the interesting thing is I grew up on a council estate in Birmingham. It was called the Lindhurst Council Estate. Now, where I grew up, it was in a masonette block, and one week you would have one set of friends, then the next week they've been shipped out somewhere because it was council owned. So from an early age, I had to learn how to just kick it with people, random people. So we had this area called the wash yard where people were supposed to hang up their clothes and stuff like that. But it was one of the only safe spaces for us to play football. So soon people started to be like, you know what, just let the kids play in there, you know. So I think for me, from that point there, I just realized that in order to get by in life, sometimes you just have to roll with the punches. And at that point, you know, I didn't really know anything different. So my confidence, I guess, grew through that without me realizing, because, you know, you can't afford to really get close to people, because at those times there's not really any social media. You didn't have mobile phones at that point. And I'm not even that old, but this is
you're exposing your age a little bit.
I'm not even that old, but I mean, there probably was mobile phones, but we wouldn't have had it at like age 10, 11 or even younger. So I think it just made me realize that actually, you know, you have to be a bit tactile, you have to be a bit creative, you have to be able to understand the situation you're in order to thrive, really. So yeah, we were very creative. We used to take the washing lines down off the poles, and every kind of game we played was always on a diagonal, because there was one goalpost there with the washing line and one goalpost there with the washing line. So when I got to school, all my shots used to curl, and I was pretty good. So I was captain of my school football team, because we had to learn how to play in really tight. Actually, I think I was a centre back at that point. I was really quite chubby, and so it was all quite funny. But I just think I had a lot of energy because of the surroundings I grew up in. And although I was never really a naughty child at school, I wouldn't say I was naughty. I was just very chatty, just very conversational. I think because of where I'd grown up, just having to really make friends and whatever. So I think there's a particular story that I always tell that actually drove me into the arts. And it was, I remember there was a school assembly, and my teacher all the other year groups were doing it about fun stuff. So they were doing it about, I don't know, David Beckham or Formula One or you know, celebrity culture or whatever it is. And then when it got to our class, we were doing it about World War II, you know, and the impact that Hitler had on, you know, the Germans. And I'm thinking, well, this isn't fun. You know, all the other classes are doing fun stuff. I want to be able to do fun stuff as well. So I remember it got to the opportunity for everyone else had come up. Everyone was cheering. Yeah, that was amazing. I loved that. And ours came up and we were saying, yeah, we're going to do about World War II. And everyone's face just drops. Everyone's like, I don't really want to listen to that. So I remember we had our pieces of paper, and the teacher, obviously she makes the students read the piece of paper, you know, here's the dates, this is what happened. And I remember I nudged my friend and I said, look, what do you think if I just go out there and do Michael Jackson? How do you think people will respond to that? Obviously my friends are like, yeah, go out there and do it, man. Go out there and do it. So I'm like, all right, I've got the only thing I need from you is support, moral support. So if I go out there, I need you to cheer on or something. Yeah, go CJ, something like that. They were like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Definitely support you.
You got set up.
Bro, I got set up big time. So I'm like, cool. So I've jumped out now. So everyone's supposed to go, I think, go to break time at this point. Assembly's done. I've jumped out now. And I said, does anybody like Michael Jackson up in here? Yeah. And I'm dancing, moonwalking up and down. I look back, my teacher's face is red, raw. I look at all the other teachers and they're smiling, like looking at my teacher. So I'm thinking, this is cool. This is like, they're enjoying it. So, you know, obviously the kids are enjoying it, clapping, whatever. So I'm like, yeah, I've done a good job. Anyway, we go back to the classroom now. My teacher doesn't say anything to me. We go back to the classroom. It's break time. She says, right, everybody out to break time. She looks at me. She says, not you. You stay right there. Then she just absolutely laid into me. absolutely laid into me. Now, I thought when I went home, I was going to get into mad trouble. I thought she was going to call my parents and I was going to get, that Caribbean discipline, that kind of thing. But
round 2.
Yeah, but my parents didn't. I went home. They didn't have a clue. They didn't know what had happened at school. Now, the reason I tell that story is because when I then went back to school the next day, my teacher said, "Oh, just the person I want to see." And I was thinking, well, that's a different tune than we left on. But the reason for that is because she wanted to put me in a school play, and she knew that I'd be able to bring a bit of life to it, because she probably hadn't seen that side to me before. As I said, a little bit introverted, maybe a little bit chatty, but I was never, the one to really put myself forward outwardly like that. But I think there was something about that opportunity, feeling like ours wasn't quite as good as the others, and feeling like I was genuinely helping the process by lifting the energy a little bit. I think she identified that. And then I think from that point on, obviously I understood that actually when you do things in the right way and at the right time, it can have even more impact. So that's kind of really what has spurred me on. And of course, I did like little plays in church and things like that, community kind of workshops and things. So I just think my confidence really grew from that experience. And so from now, when I identify that other people might just need an opportunity, I just can't help but feel like, because of the opportunity I've had and where I'm at now, I feel like just offering lending a hand. So
wow, that's crazy. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a really unique experience.
Yeah.
Because something forced you out of your shell. That in itself says something about leadership, right? Yeah. The teacher might not have seen it that way, but you felt like, you know what, this is something that's not quite, we could do better than this. We could, let me do something. Let me be the one to kind of take it upon myself. That could obviously be read one way or the other, disruptive or whatever. But in a way, if we're looking at with hindsight, actually that was, a leadership element so coming in there. But do you remember, because that's what you were thinking, I'm going to do something that's going to make us not look like fools, or it's going to be a little bit better than what the other guys are doing. But then obviously on the flip side, the teacher goes red and she absolutely gives you the, the riot act, right? So do you remember how you were feeling in those moments?
In the moment of when I was doing it at the time, I felt like, I was genuinely helping the situation. I didn't know whether her heart was really in this thing. I feel like it was just an additional task she had to do. So I was kind of picking up on nuances that perhaps I was reading wrong, but it showed that there was a degree of emotional awareness in that environment, and a fearlessness almost to do something, even though, it wasn't the right thing to do at the time. But then at the moment when she kind of told me off, I didn't really understand, because as far as I was concerned, I was helping, I was supporting you, you know what I mean? And I don't know if she articulated it perhaps as well as she could have at the time, because she was maybe just embarrassed that one of her students had done that. And, it is really disrespect, isn't it? If you've kind of rehearsed something and then somebody just takes it upon themselves. I could only imagine now if I was doing a theatre production and we'd rehearse something for weeks and then, one of the actors just decides to do their own thing. And that has actually happened, but not that extreme. And I do find it, I do get really kind of annoyed by that, let's say, because it's disrespect. You haven't respected the direction.
You know what they say about karma, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're dealing with here. So, but although I was a child, though, these guys are adults, so they're doing it from
absolutely, 100%.
Different thing.
So, like, you coming in the next, I know you touched on it already, but I feel like there's such a strong lesson to be learned here. You coming in the next day, and the teacher having a completely different tune.
Yeah.
How were you processing that?
I was very confused because it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to me. I thought something was off anyway because she didn't phone home. And normally if someone's done something really bad, that's the first thing. And my wife is a teacher actually, and she said if that happened in her school and somebody did that, that's the first thing she would have done, called home. So I don't know whether it was discernment. I don't know whether my teacher understood my background and where I was coming from, why she, decided not to go that route. But definitely when I came to school that day, I was feeling a bit taken back and confused. And bearing in mind, I hadn't done any drama or anything like this before. So when she said, yeah, we're going to go and it was Oliver Twist, we're going to have you audition for Oliver Twist. There's no guarantees, she said. There's no guarantees that you're going to get anything, but, I want you to audition for this. And I remember I was annoyed because I didn't get the main role or anything like that. I was like, come on, man, you told me that this is something I need to do and you didn't even give me a main role. I think I got a role of my school head teacher, and I was like doing some comedy bits here and there, and people loved it really because it was, it just brought that comedy element to the show. But at that particular moment when she had that different tune, I think I didn't really understand what was going on, if I'm being honest, because it was weird.
It's crazy because that's really important to understand that sometimes, especially if you're younger, right? And that's for, the listeners, the younger audience members listening now. Sometimes when someone says something, you got to understand where it's coming from. And it might be difficult to rationalize, at the time. But if you think people don't always say things that they mean, people might say things out of a reaction.
Yeah.
So they're not responding to what's happening. It seems to me like what she did the next day was a response to actually what's happening.
Yeah.
But her initial reaction was a reaction. She just reacted because of how she felt.
Yeah.
That was more internalized because other teachers are laughing.
Yeah.
Children. So it wasn't like you caused chaos. You didn't come on stage and start breaking things up and causing havoc, right? You came on there, you entertained people, loved it, all of that. So it was probably more of like a personal thing. So sometimes we have to look at people from a merciful standpoint and understand that, okay, cool, why is this person reacting in this way?
It's weird in hindsight though, because obviously I'm 29 now, so when you think back, your teacher was probably only like 24. Do you know what I mean? Your teacher's still very young, even though you're young yourself. You don't realize how young these people are.
Ego.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So there's the pride. She might be a new teacher. You don't know the nuance of what could have been happening there. So maybe it was the shame. So we do have to obviously come from that emotionally intelligent way of thinking sometimes and know that it's not personal, but they may have just responded at the time.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So you auditioned for Oliver Twist. You didn't get the main gig?
Nope.
Yeah. So was she the one who was actually giving out the positions then?
Yeah.
So she was giving out the position, but she gave you like a comical...
a side role,
Listen, you're a comedian, bro. I see your thing. So she obviously spotted the talent from them. She said, this is... But you didn't see it that way at the time, right?
No. At the time, I was thinking, you're on some joke thing, man. Like, you told me to audition for this. So somebody tells me... It's almost like a headhunting. Somebody tells you, I want you to apply for this job. And then you don't get the job. It's like, it felt like that. Even though I did get a role and it did turn out to be the best fit for me, at the time I couldn't see that because all I was seeing was Oliver Twist. I want to be Oliver Twist. But actually I probably wasn't. Sometimes the lead roles, and what I've learned, when I was doing more of the acting, is that sometimes the lead roles don't have that much flexibility. It's very much they're there to carry the story forward. They're there to be the anchor, whereas the kind of side characters or the A and B characters, they'll have more flavor, they'll have more comedy because they've got to come in and make an impact and then they're gonna go. So a lot of the roles, whenever I've been acting, I think I performed in a lot of plays growing up, and I don't think I was really ever a main character. I was usually always a complementing actor. And I remember when I was 16, I played a role in a play called Back to the 80s. It was a musical, and I ended up winning an award for the character I was playing. And it was literally, I was just playing a school head teacher, and it was the role itself was just pretty simple. But it's what you bring to it. It's the energy that you bring to it. And because it was a comedy, obviously I enjoy comedy. So that was, I was able to bring my flair to it. And so I did win an award for that, yeah.
And that's the important thing. I think I spoke about this on another podcast, right? Whereas, sometimes people get opportunities, but it's not the one that they're looking for. So they don't give it the same level of attention and care because that's not the one that they're looking for. But actually, every opportunity is an opportunity. And if you give it the same level of attention and care, then where the opportunity could end up could absolutely surprise you. Right? But if you don't give it attention and care, then what's going to happen is that's going to be the end of the opportunity, and then nothing further actually happens from there. So, you just never know, right?
It's mindset, isn't it? Yeah. It's mindset. I mean, even in the work you can do, I imagine it's a lot of that because you're going to these empty spaces. People probably can't see the opportunity, but you're looking at empty space. You won't be looking at the ceiling peeling and, the floorboards cracking. You're not looking at that. You're looking at what can be done.
Oh, we're looking at that. We're saying this is gold dust. Like, this is gold dust. Someone else looks at it and be like, oh, no. We're like, okay, cool. So we're going to knock the price down here. We're going to yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's the same thing, exactly the same thing, man.
100%, bro. I love that. Okay, cool. So, bro, there's so many lessons. It's interesting, but there's so many lessons that I guess you kind of learned at that younger age that I would imagine, because you've just given examples of, now you're the one, behind the cameras, you're the one directing, you're thinking, just do what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like what, do you know what I'm saying? This is it, right? So, but it's, understanding that flexibility, understanding the nuances in different characters and, what different characters bring. You're saying characters, I'm from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I'm saying opportunities. It's just because you could act. So for example, if you're an actor, and you've got a gig. And I believe most actors don't start with the main gig, right?
No,
you've got a gig where you're in there for like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe even an extra, 3 minutes. But like that 3 minutes, you give the performance of your life.
Yeah.
That director's thinking, hang on, do you know what? I've got a part for this type of character, but it's a bigger part in another.
Yes.
You don't even know that the director's got something else they're working on.
Yeah.
Right? But you give that 100% now, it's like, wow, that's the person.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But you just do nothing. And they don't even think anything. They just be like, okay, cool, you've done your job, see you later, hey, you've been paid, see you later. But because you've given something 100%,
that's it.
Now they're thinking, hang on, you're more than this.
Yeah.
I can see something else for you. So it's the same thing, isn't it, really?
And it's so true. I mean, the reason I went into writing anyway is because the reason I got into writing, rather, I always had a natural affinity for writing. Even when I was at school, I didn't have to try as hard with the creative writing stuff. It just came naturally to me. I remember I was, I'm not advocating not working hard, by the way, but some things do just come naturally to you, and you have to, and you can either, lean into that, or you can run away from it. A lot of people do run away from their gift because they don't know how it's going to monetize. And I feel culturally as well, that is a big thing, because people don't see the potential in how it can be sustainable or how it's going to grow. And don't get me wrong, creativity in and of itself is never really sustainable until you've got one or two other things on the side that you can set up and have more passive streams, and then you can come back to it. But we'll go on to talk about all of that. But I feel, the reason I went into the writing, one was because I had a natural affinity towards it, and two, when you are an actor, you are merely a vehicle to tell somebody else's story. It's not about you. And this is where a lot of actors get confused. When you're in that rehearsal room as an actor, that's your character. You need to enter into that world, and you need to stay in that world, and that's what you do. As a writer, you're creating the world, you're creating the vision. As a director, you're steering the ship. So a lot of people, they want to be actors, they want to be directors, they want to be writers, all in the same breadth at the same time, and that is very challenging. I'm not saying it's impossible. A lot of people are extraordinarily talented and can do that, but they have a very clear understanding of the three distinctive roles. So the reason I struggled as I got older with the acting is because I have a very strong moral compass, and there were things that I was being asked to do that I wasn't comfortable with.
Like
and at the time, I wouldn't have been comfortable like kissing anyone on stage or anything like that. Because, I'm thinking I'm probably 16, 17. My nan's going to come and watch this. You know what I mean? You don't want to, for me, that wasn't a thing I wanted to do. And then for me, it was kind of like, okay, that's the first thing I'm going to do. Then where's that going to progress to? And this, that, and the other. So that was kind of, you weren't asked to do those kind of things when you were in primary school or secondary school. But as you start entering into adulthood now, into university, and you get in the ITV gigs and this, that, and the other, and you're auditioning, you might have an audition and the director will say, right, and you don't even know the people in the room. Director will say, right, I need you two to just do something here. And I'm thinking, I don't even know this man. It's like, so there was one time I had to just pause the thing, because he'd asked me to do something I wasn't comfortable with. I had to pause, bearing in mind it's a whole room full of actors, they're just getting on with it. Everybody just wants to do their thing because, again, you're the vehicle. It's not about you. It's about the story. I wasn't comfortable. So I went and spoke to the director and said, I'm not really comfortable, engaging in that. And he was like, well, this is acting. This is what we do. So it was from that moment I realized I probably need to be more behind the scenes so that I can control the narratives. I think initially I was creating the narratives that I wanted to be in. I wanted to act in my own stuff because I didn't really have necessarily the grounding or understanding to know that there were 3 distinct roles that obviously intercross, but they are 3 distinct roles as an actor, director, and writer. But I wanted to, act in my own things. But then I remember my first play that I wrote at university, it was called White Spirit. And it was about, a blind child growing up in foster care and kind of being passed from pillar to post. And it was quite a deep and nuanced piece of work. And lots of people wanted to be in it. And it was at that moment I was like, you know what, maybe it's okay if I'm not actually in front of the camera or on stage. And maybe it's okay if I actually encourage people behind the scenes and help them to find the deeper layers and nuance of the work. So that was really how I started to have more of an appreciation for writing, because you're ultimately creating the world. You're creating the world of that piece of drama.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing something out of your mind, right? So you got to be very, very creative. But why? Because typically in the 9-to-5 world, when someone thinks, okay, I don't want to do this thing anymore, the next thing is different career. Yeah. Right. So like, what is it about the arts that pulls you to it, that makes you think, okay, cool, I don't want to act, but I can't this is what I love doing. I've got to do something else in this. Like, what is that pull?
Well, bro, it's ideas. It's having stories in your head that need to be put down on paper. It's not to say that everything is going to be performed. It's not to say that everything you do is going to, be the next Hollywood blockbuster, but these are ideas that are in your head. And like, as a writer, I have to get them down, or I have to create some sort of synopsis or idea, that could potentially be used in some way. It's just innate. It's just a part of me. You know what I mean? So I didn't kind of like set out to say I'm a writer, but then I started to realize, all the interactions, all the people that I met growing up, and the stories of people's lives who I'll probably never meet again, just because I met them for 1 week as a child and then we formed a friendship and they were gone the next week. Like, I think in my head, where is that person now? I wonder what their story is. You know what I mean? I wonder if I can find them. I can't remember their name, but I remember what they were like. And then you have all these characters in your head that you just need to do something with. You know what I mean? So it wasn't necessarily a choice. And I feel that one of the problems with artists and creatives and even other industries as well, but yeah, one of the problems I find is that people are sometimes they shy away from going and working at 9 to 5 to just put the food on the table, because they've got this pride element to say, you know what, I'm an artist, I'm a creative, I don't do that. Me, bro, I was chopping sausages when I left university.
Well, chopping as in eating?
Yeah, bro.
I'm Nigerian,
Bro.
When you say chopping Nigeria, that means you're eating chopping sausages.
No. I had the butcher's hat on. I was a school lunchtime supervisor. Bro, this is what I'm saying. I gotta talk the real, because this is the journey. You mentioned that this podcast is all about the journey. I graduated from, so I was working in Topshop when I was at university.
As you do.
Little part-time role. And I was happy because, you get your little discount. I probably didn't have as much understanding of finance and things at that time. I just saw a discount. I was like, I got to buy it. But, when I graduated from uni.
What did you do at uni?
So I did theatre and performance studies. And I had a lot of modules in English as well, and English literature. And so that's where I did really pick up the kind of writing thing, and I was able to experiment with different actors and so on and so forth. Then it's kind of one of those degrees where there's no clear pathway. And that's one reason I don't really tell people to go and study that kind of thing. I'll say you can kind of do it really without the degree. I think it's good to have a degree because you got the transferable skills and you meet people and you network. But in terms of the actual artistry itself, you can learn all of that. Just go on courses and whatever. You can do all kinds of things. But I enjoyed my experience there. And like you will probably see from my Instagram anyway, I do so many different things. You know, it's kind of like a cake. There's so many different layers to it. And at uni, I was playing football. I was doing the drama. I was doing the writing. I was working. I was just meeting lots of different people. And so when I graduated, you kind of get shipped out into the big wide world. Then it's like, yeah, right. So I knew that I wanted to go and study writing in London, creative writing in London eventually. But at the time when I'd graduated, it was just like, right, I've got to do something. London's expensive. I can't just move there because I'm just, what am I going to do? So I ended up working as a lunchtime supervisor in a secondary school. And I would turn up in my 3-piece suit, and then I put my butcher's coat on and my hat, and I would chop the sausages for the students. Now, I was wearing the 3-piece suit because I knew I wasn't going to stay chopping sausages. No, I don't know where I was going to end up, but I knew I had a degree, I had something to offer. I knew that I would be able to facilitate something. So I will wear every day, I will wear my 3-piece suit with my tie and put on my butcher's coat and my hat.
It's a reminder.
As a reminder that's it. So when the students would come in, they'd be like, "Sir, why you got that butcher's hat on, man?" And I'm like,
"You're setting yourself up for some kids to run riot."
Right. Well, they did, man. They did. They gave me a run for my money, man. But at the same time, as you say, it's about, you've got to know where you're headed. It's not about what anybody else thinks. So, you know, I'll be sweeping up the children's rice grains and just cleaning up, mopping the floors and all of that, man. It was humbling, but at the same time, I always had the vision in my head, right? I got to get another role in here, whether it's teaching assistant or, you know, maybe doing some kind of after school club or something so people can see the skills that I had.
And is this in London?
No, this was Birmingham. This was Birmingham. Yeah. And so this was before I went to London. So because I knew I needed to save up. So yeah, so I would go every day. I think it was about 3-4 months. I was just doing just doing the sausages. But on the side,
how did you know that was that you're gonna succeed at that? Because listen, there's a graveyard full of actors and actresses in those canteens and pubs and right. You know, I'm not trying to call anyone out.
No,
I'm
it's
just saying,
real though. It's
right?
real.
And
it's
every
real.
one of them has these ambitions, right? Yeah. So how did you know that you were gonna get past that?
Failure is not an option, bro. Failure is not an option in the sense of, you only fail when you quit and you give up. For me, it was, this is for a season. This is going to be my testimony. This is going to be my story when I get to spaces like this and I can speak to someone like you, because I knew that was just one part of what I was doing. I was still writing. I was still doing some acting classes at the Birmingham Rep Theatre, which I actually ended up 4 years later having a play on the main stage.
Wow.
So this is the vision. Crazy. It comes full circle. So for me, there was just a knowing. I just knew that I had so much to offer, and I never was envious of others' achievements. I would always applaud people for their talents, and you know, I would always give advice or constructive feedback if I could, or I was always happy to help others. And I think if you have that mindset, you're going to be successful because people will want you to be around them. And so I remember I saw my opportunity one day. I went into one of the teacher's drama lessons, and she wasn't a drama teacher. So because the school was very small at the time, so teachers had to double up on subjects. So she was doing history and drama, and no, I think she had to do 3 subjects: history, drama, and French.
I'm not even gonna ask what grades you were coming out of school with.
Yeah, it was a crazy one. So she was doing history, drama, and French, and she was fine with history and drama. Sorry, she was fine with history and French, but she didn't want to do drama. So every time I'd walk past the classroom, the kids were sitting down, and I'm thinking, drama, that's the drama lesson. So do something like. So anyway, I remember one day I asked the head teacher, I said, "Oh, you know, I've got a theatre and performance degree. Like, do you mind if I go and shadow? Because you don't want to overstep the boundary. You know what I mean? I'm there to chop sausages. I'm not there to do that as far as they're concerned." So I just went, can I go in there and shadow? And I just said to the I said to the teacher at the time, said, look, I'm happy to support you in this lesson. And she said, what, you'd be happy to do that? She was like, oh, I don't even know anything about drama. I don't know why I've been landed this. And I was like, well, I do, so I started talking to the kids about, I said, does anybody know about Augusto Boal? Theatre of the Oppressed, this is the world that we can create here, which is kind of like Augusto Boal did a thing called Forum Theatre, where he would take common issues, like, for example, I don't know, what's a pressing issue at the moment?
Cost of living crisis.
Cost of living crisis. So he would say, right, we're going to create a performance about the cost of living crisis. There's going to be a shop assistant, and there's going to be a lady who can't afford her shopping.
Single mom or something.
Single mom can't afford her shopping. So you would say to the students, right, who wants to be the shop assistant? I want to do it. Because they've been sitting down. They've been sitting down for every drama lesson. So as far as they were concerned, and I couldn't let that happen, because I know the power and impact of creativity and drama and arts. And so I said to them, look, I said, who wants to be the shop assistant? Who wants to be the shop, the lady who wants to be in the shop? We were on our feet. I said, right, everybody just push the tables to the side. I just said, like, any ramping, any messing around, we're just going to sit back down. Obviously, they don't want to do that. So they're listening, they're attentive. Then the teacher, after the lesson, she was like, wow, like, I didn't know you could do that. That's because you've only seen me in the dinner hall chopping sausages. And that's why now, whenever I meet somebody, I always give them the time of day, because you don't know, especially, particularly in London, like, you'll meet people on the tube, you think they're just anybody. 100%. They'll tell you, oh yeah, back home I was a surgeon. I'm only doing this cleaning job now because it's a different situation here and I have to try and make ends meet. So you can't judge a book by its cover just because of what you see them in at that time. So then I remember she organized a meeting with the head teacher, and she said, look, CJ is really good at facilitating the drama stuff. Like, it would be good if he actually went and did it. So obviously my head teacher, she wasn't sure, because she, needed to see it in action.
Like, this guy chops. What are you talking about?
Yeah. You don't do that. That's not what we do. We need him in there, because that's what that. So I said. So anyway, she came and watched me do a drama lesson. Had them all on their feet. I was able to control the room, control the space, because at uni I'd actually done modules in prisons. I went to a prison in Stafford, and I was doing workshops with like inmates. So I kind of knew that if I could do that, I could do that. I can do, some 12-year-old kids. So it's a different kind of energy that's required, but it's the same techniques that you'd be using. So anyway, she was observing me, and she was like, oh, actually, it's pretty good, this, that, and the other. So she was like, I tell you what, you can do half the time in the dinner hall, and then half the time you can do the drama lessons when we need them. So obviously now the students are saying, okay, yes, he's still wearing the butcher's hat when he's in there, but when he's out of there, he's Mr. Webley now. Yeah. He's Sir now. Yeah. So it just gave that, they were confused, because that's not a normal situation, I can't, because anywhere they are now, they can't mess about, because I'm Mr. Webley now. So then eventually, as I then started to get more comfortable and more confident, there was then an art teacher role that came up, unqualified art teacher role, that they needed an art teacher to do the sessions. They got someone external. I think it was a graduate I think she was doing her
undergrad.
Yeah, undergrad at the time. And obviously she was quite young, didn't really have the experience. So she came in, the kids weren't really listening, they were just messing around. And then she just stopped coming. And then I just said to the head teacher, I did art A-level, I can go in and do the art lessons as well. So then before I knew it, I was doing less and less time in the dinner hall and more time in the classrooms. Now I was getting more experience. I was learning how to facilitate. I was learning how to, use different techniques that I hadn't used before. I was picking up on other teachers as well, strategies they used and this, that, and the other. So I was really growing, and I was enjoying that experience. So, I was one of the popular teachers. Every time we had my lessons, they were the fun lessons. They were the ones that the students actually wanted to do. Wow. Then that's when the dilemma came, because I would start, for the first time, I was now getting some regular income. And then towards the end of the year, it was time to then leave that and go to London.
Wow.
So I remember I said, and this is why I got to shout my wife out and my mum as well, because I literally said to them, I don't know if I want to do that anymore. I think, I'm getting regular money here. Remember, I'm like 21, 22 at the time. So, you're getting a teacher's salary. That's decent at the time. And so I was tussling with what I was kind of like in a bit of a dichotomy, though. Do I really want to go for that dream or do I kind of want to stay in this comfortable zone? And then my wife might as well have just slapped me around the face and said, you know what, pack your bags, man, and go. Look. She was just like,
talking about?
Yeah, she was just like, no, ever since I've known you, like you've always wanted to pursue your creative dreams. And the same with my mum as well. They said that you're not staying here. You've got to go and do what it is that you wanted to do. Even the students were saying it to me. Why are you here? Basically, wow. And I think if everybody around you is telling you, you're more than this, and not to discredit teachers, because obviously having been in it, I know how much they have to do. I know what's required and how much they give, but whether it's for you. And it wasn't the right thing for me. And everybody around me knew that. So I had to go.
Like, that's the thing. People always looking for opportunities everywhere else.
Yeah.
But where they are.
Yeah.
And the truth is, sometimes the opportunity that you're looking for are right in front of you.
100%.
And if you don't know how to find that opportunity or how to actually carve the opportunity out of where you are,
100%.
Then the reality is you could be jumping from one place to the other, to the other, to the other, finding this opportunity that you're never going to find because it's right in front of you.
Yeah.
And what you did, Deborah, is, you started off in the kitchen and then before you know it, you're teaching drama, you're teaching art. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And they start to see your value more and more.
Yeah.
Right? And that's really what a lot of people miss.
Yes.
So that's an incredible thing, bro. And so at this point, I'm guessing initially you would have been about 20?
Yeah, I was around 20. Yeah.
So that to have this level of awareness and intuition is obviously that's a pretty young age. I know there's 20
now
years.
Those kids that I taught are 20 now, which is crazy.
That's mad.
I met them when I was at their community gift shop. They walked past and they're like, "Sir, remember me?" I couldn't remember their names, but they were like 20, towering over me. I was like, man. Yeah, glad I jumped out of that because I can't deal with that. That's too much. But yeah,
that is amazing. That's amazing. Okay, cool. So let's talk about it. You just mentioned the community shop. How do you go from this creativity to entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
Like, how does that? How did that come about?
London battered me, bro. That's how it came about. So I came to London.
Has a way of doing that to
London
people.
destroyed. So there were ups, there were lots of highs and lows, and without going into it too much because the story is really long, I ended up getting a job when I was in London. Now, thankfully, because of the teaching experience I had so many different transferable skills now. I could do the admin, I could do the spreadsheets, I could do whatever. So I remember I came to London, had no job or anything like that. I had my little student accommodation that was, and I was stressed because I'm like, it's expensive, man. I need to get a job like ASAP. I was looking at Nando's and I couldn't even get anything over there. You know what I mean? So I remember I said, right, I'm just going to take some time out and I'm just going to do something I enjoy, which was football at the time. And so I called this random number. It was like Stoke Newington FC. Called this random number and it was a guy called Addy. Shout out Addy if he's listening. And he was like, yeah, come down on the Wednesday. We'll check you out, see how you get on. So I couldn't make that particular Wednesday, but I could make the match on the Sunday. And so I'd met him, I'd played football and whatever. They liked me, whatever. And then I was like, cool. So that was a little bit of a boost. I'd made it into the football team. And then, so I've done that, tick that off the list. And then Monday comes again. I'm like, man, still need a job, man. I can't really, because I hadn't started my degree at this point. It was
now you're paying subs.
Bro, paying for £5 subs, man. That was a lot at the time. And that's a meal. You know what I mean? So I was thinking, okay, my degree hasn't started just yet. So there was this like interim period where just wanted to get a job sorted so that, okay, cool, when the thing starts, I can work things out. So I don't know what came over me. I think I just called, I think I messaged the guy who runs the football team. I just said, look, you know any jobs going? Like, because I was scrolling down Indeed, you know them ones where you're scrolling down Indeed looking for opportunity. I didn't know what I was looking for in particular, but I just wanted something that was a little bit flexible that I could do around my studies. And then he just messaged me back. He said, yeah, there's actually a job going at my place, actually. It was an NHS admin job. And I was like, oh, no way, you know, how do I get in touch? He sent me the number of the agency, this, that, and the other. I got in touch, you know, and I didn't know it was in litigation. I didn't know much about litigation and this, that, and the other, but I thought this is an opportunity. I ended up getting an interview for it. I went for the interview, and when I got there, he just acted like he didn't know me. You know what I mean? He was making sure that standard procedure. I didn't know that at the time, so I'm thinking, why is he being weird? Yeah, why is he being weird? Like, we know, like, I'm just kicking ball with you on a Sunday, like. But I understand now, as I've matured, you have to be impartial because it's you know, you have to make sure that they have to make sure the process is fair.
If you do get a job and you come into the environment and now people are looking at you one way,
exactly. So. Anyway, I went in the interview. I didn't know too much about litigation, to be honest. I didn't really know what it was, but I did have basic admin skills. I talked about my experience teaching, also working in Top Man. I had a little admin job that I did as work experience. So all that stuff I was just talking about, and just, I think the lady that interviewed me next to him, she liked my vibe, thought I'd be really positive for the environment. I ended up getting getting that job. So that, as far as I was concerned, it was like a sigh of relief. I had a job, I was in London, I could pay for my food and this, that, and the other. Now, then my degree started, and I was obviously using my creativity. I also had the stability of work. I think I had to, because so my degree was evening classes, so I would go to work in the morning till around, I think 5 o'clock, just standard 9 to 5 basically. And then I would go to work in the evening. Sorry, go to uni in the evening. And this was going on for, I'd say, the first 6 months, 6 months of the degree. Then I remember I got an opportunity to have one of my first plays produced in London. And I remember I was having to book off time from work, and like they had this thing called Flexi where you could book off a couple of hours and work the extra hours the next day. And it became really challenging. And I think we were just talking downstairs about how I had this play on. It was my very first full-length play, and I ended up getting 4 and 5 star reviews. So I'm thinking, man, like, I'm on top of the world now. Like, I want to really do this now. Like, I don't want to be having to ask for time off work and this, that, and the other. I just want to do this.
And it's not easy. Listen, my missus is an actress. No. My little sister, I think I told her she just graduated from Central. Yeah. Listen, these critics don't. If you're getting 4 5s, these people are savage.
Yeah.
So you must be thinking, wow, if critics get, so I'm on track now. This is
Well, that particular piece was called Shadows, and it was ultimately about 3 black inmates in Winson Green prison, and they'd all been put in there from different generations, having different experiences of what it means to be black. You know, one's growing up in foster care, one's growing up with kind of like an experience of kind of black power and the Black Panthers, and one is growing up with kind of he's a younger guy that's really impressionable, and he's trying to find his truth. And ultimately, his demise ends up being the fact that because of the conflict that kept arising, they were put in there to essentially, because of their skin color, people thought they'd be okay together. But actually, the thing that was supposed to bring them closer, different. They were very different, and it tore them apart. So upon reflection, there's so many directions I could have taken that piece in. But the fact it was getting good reviews, you know, they called me like a diamond in the rough kind of playwright. And so obviously I'm feeling like, right, and you know, you always hear about, you got to take the leap, you got to do it, you know, you can't feel like
you listen to the morning motivation playlists.
Bro, I was listening to all of that. And so anyway, I think I had a really bad day at work one day, and I was just annoyed. I was like, this is just this is just taking up too much of my time, man. And so I don't know what came over me. I just handed in my notice the next day.
You must have listened to one clip that morning, like, just do it.
Bro, I handed in my note. I just sent that email, and it felt very freeing, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, when you wake up the next morning, you're thinking, man,
it's panicking, yeah.
Where am I going to get that? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But I was like, right, I've done it now. I'm not going back. So I was obviously working my notice, and I was applying for loads of different interviews, and I was getting the interviews. I was getting through the first round, through the first round. And then every time it got to the second round of the interview, I wouldn't get it, and I wouldn't hear any feedback. I didn't know what was going on. As far as I was concerned, I'd put on a production in London. You know, I've come from my city of Birmingham. I've come to London. I've put on a play. It's got 4 and 5 star reviews. I've had to market it, promote it. And I'm just looking for entry level roles in like theatre spaces or film studios, and I'm just not getting through the door. Now, upon reflection, like, I was going to those creative interviews in 3-piece suits, but that's how I was raised. Like, that's what I was told to do. You know what I mean? When you go to interviews, you gotta look. I was looking, but they must have saw that as, nah, this guy's stiff, man. This guy is like coming with his corporate energy. That's not how we do it here. But I think there were probably more nuances than that I didn't understand. And maybe if they were just honest and open with me, I would have understood. But obviously, you've got to. And that's why now I try, as I said to you, I try not to look at a person and judge them based on what I can't necessarily understand or where they seem to be right now. I actually listen to what the person is saying and, you know, listen to their drive and ambition. But I think there is something in the ether in the industry about a lot of people being threatened by, you know, a new person coming in that they're not really familiar with. They might have a different kind of energy. They might have a different approach to things. And I feel like in the art space, people like things how they've always done it. So I think I must have went for 7, 8 interviews, didn't get any of them. And so at this point, I was feeling very disheartened. I couldn't stay in London. My plan was pretty much to stay in London and, you know, keep my career growing here. But it didn't happen like that. I ended up, I spoke to my wife. This was before we were married, and she just said, "Look, you have to come back to Birmingham and see, see what you can do here." So, it
how
was
did that feel,
bro? I felt like a failure, to be honest. You got to think I'm on top of the world, having a play produced, my first play produced. Those kind of reviews, and you're thinking everything's gonna go up from there. Yeah. But didn't happen like that. I'm just getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And you're not understanding why. And I remember there was one interview I went to, and I think it was just something for like radio assistant or assistant producer or something. And I had an interview with the lady. I remember this was all pre-George Floyd and all of that, so she probably wouldn't have said this now. But at the time, she said, "Look, now like I've done this sample interview," and she said, "Your voice is too deep for the radio. The way you're talking, it comes across like you're arrogant and this, that, and the other." And I'm thinking, yeah. This is what she said. This is what she was saying. Like, it comes across like you're arrogant and stuff like that. She was literally just asking me about my play and my work, and I was just talking normally. And bearing in mind, there were like 5, 6 people that had gone before me, and there was literally a guy sitting back like this, just like that, and she never said anything to him. But then when I came up and I'm like exuding a bit of passion and kind of just answering the questions in my way, she's saying that's arrogant. So that obviously made me then think like, wow, like, am I coming across as arrogant? So it really like dented my confidence. But I went back to Birmingham, and I had to I think I took a couple of days just to like reflect. I went for walks, just went to the gym, just did a few things away from that before I was gonna get back on the horse again. And then I was back on Indeed again. So I'd gone to London, I'd done everything. I had a job. Changed the location, back on Indeed. And then I don't know what happened, but I was like, right, what I've got the teaching experience. This is where the entrepreneurial side started to creep in. was like, right, I've got the teaching experience, you know, and I know there's a lot of children, particularly when I was doing the lessons I was doing, there's a lot of students that aren't really engaging with English. They're not engaging with their writing. They don't want to put pen to paper. And I was like, maybe I can set something up, you know, like creative writing club, and just go around to schools and teach students that are disengaged, you know, how to get passionate about it. So I kind of set that up, and I called it Sorrel Park Theatrical. So sorrel obviously is a traditional Caribbean drink that takes a long time to prepare, but once you boil it down and add the sugar and whatever, it's very sweet, and you enjoy the end product. So that was kind of the vision behind it. And you know, I started. I also ended up getting another job, kind of a part-time theatre making job, where I was just it was kind of like an after-school club, just working with some children and some posh kids. And I said, oh man, if you saw the videos, I said I was like a choreographer. So I'm like making up choreography for these little children, and it's mad. But you just have to do what you got to do.
Listen,
do what you got to do, man. So yeah, so whilst I was doing that, I set up this writing club, and I was getting into school after school after school. I had a bit of advice from obviously my mum and my wife, who were teachers, and they told me, like, this is the lingo you have to tell those head teachers, and once you do that, they'll buy into it. So you have to talk about, you want to support, you know, SEND, so special educational needs children, you know, those with attention deficits. You know, you're using all that language as though I really understood, but you know, I'm sitting in the interviews, I'm saying, yeah, so obviously I work primarily with those with SEND. But that was, you know, that's what I had to do to do it. And I was getting into school after school after school, because as far as they're concerned, I'm a writer, had plays produced in London. You know, I've just come back to Birmingham to give back support. So that was going well. You know, my confidence was building again, and I didn't really know that was entrepreneurship at the time. I just thought that was just me being me. But then you understand that actually, if you're providing us, I was really proud at the time, because I was like, wow, I'm providing a service and it's being paid for, like, just for my time. And I'm not having the constraints of somebody telling me I can't do it at this time and this way. And so my mindset was shifting. Then COVID happened, and I lost all the schools. I couldn't get into any of the schools. And I didn't have necessarily the acumen at the time to be able to pivot online. I didn't know how to really do it. But fortunately, or I guess, I don't know if it was fortunately or just because I'd pre-prepared, I had written a play that ended up getting picked up by the Birmingham Rep Theatre, and I landed a commission. That was when I had my play on the main stage at the Rep. And it was at that moment when I landed this commission. So I'd lost all the kind of schools that I was working in. I couldn't do the theatre job I was doing, but I landed this commission, and it was a 5-figure commission. So I was all good for a few months, and it was that's when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, and all this, that, and the other, and those protests were right outside the building that I just now landed this commission in. Yeah. So I'm thinking, wow, I'm kind of on top of the world here. Like, I've landed this dream to have a play on the main stage in my city. But then I've got the opposite of that, which is all these people from different walks of life saying they're struggling, and they don't know where to go, they don't know where to turn. And I just felt, you know, if I didn't land this commission, I'd probably be in the same position as them. I'd be struggling right now, and I wouldn't know where to turn. So that's when the idea of the Black Pounds Project came from. And I just said, you know, big changes come from small change. Imagine if we all donated £2, what could we do with that money to start developing programs for the community, developing access to resources? And it just spiraled from then. I think the fact of the vision being born out of something just organically, the fact that I was doing it because I just genuinely cared about those who, you know, may have been going through something at the time, Within 3 weeks, we had, I think, £6,000 raised.
Wow.
And that's when I realized, okay, maybe I need to do something with this now and figure out what it is. So my initial aim was to just invest pockets of money into some businesses. But you realize, actually, if you do that, you're only helping 5 or 6 people. You can't. But actually, they say, the saying is, you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And so that was kind of the ethos I just decided to develop. And since then, for that past 3-year period, I feel like I've done around 6-7 degrees because of the people that I've met on the journey, you know, business advisors, business, you know, experts, millionaire entrepreneurs, they're taking me under their wing, they're teaching me. And I'm just having hour-long conversations, mentorship, coaching with these people that just believed in me and what I was trying to do. And now I'm just imparting that knowledge back to those that, you know, need it. And so you talk about the community gift shop that came up, that opened permanently this year, and it's supporting currently 60 entrepreneurs to have their products in the store. And the membership is currently at around 359, pushing on to 400 people for the organization. So we've come a long way, but it sounds like a bit of a massive jump from doing workshops in schools to having a play to now leading this organization. But I think the way my life is just a bit of, you know,
it's a movie.
It is a bit, you know, if we want to go there. But I've just, you know, I enjoy now telling the story because I feel like I'm on the other side. And it's not to say that there won't be pitfalls and hurdles moving forward, but I think I just kind of want people to know that, you know, although we sometimes like to delve into racial issues being the barrier, I think sometimes it is more your mindset that will allow you to thrive. Yes, there will be pitfalls. Yes, there is racial divide. Yes, there are people that are ignorant. But I think if you focus too much on those things, then you won't feel like it is possible to succeed. So for me, the Black Pounds Project is actually about, you know, having empowering conversations, speaking to people that are actually doing it, that may have gone through things, but they haven't used that as like an excuse to stop. It's just actually fueled them to continue. And there's always going to be people that are haters or people that, you know, want to bring you down or knock you down a peg or two. But that's the reality, particularly in, you know, the arts sector, because there's a lot of jealousy, there's a lot of envy. And especially in the social media world, you always see everybody perceivedly doing it. But when you get down to the nuts and bolts, we're all on the journey. Everyone is on a journey. Some people are just a little bit further along than others.
Wow. Honestly, bro, that is so inspiring. So, and actually, like you said, it isn't that different. Like the way you've just explained it is a very, very natural transition from, you know, the creative into the entrepreneurship, because it actually kind of connects directly with, you know, where your head's at with the whole, you know, you've always been helping, you know, whether it was, you know, the kids in the school, you know, the type of plays that you kind of written. So that makes perfect sense to me. And listen, bro, you know, it's I feel like there's so much more that we could really go into, but nah, it's been absolutely incredible because look at the things that you've achieved. When you really think about it, you've had a play written in London, you know, really, really great reviews. You've had one on the main stage in Birmingham now. Now you've got this community project that's helping. It's at over 60, bro, do you know how 60 entrepreneurs? That is incredible. You know, you've come down, we managed to time it, you know, on your way to Downing Street, right? Like this is, you know, this are big things happening. So with all that said, so this leads perfectly onto the second and the final question, which is the second of the set questions we have, which is, now that you've achieved all of these things, what remains your need to succeed?
Oh, that's a good question. What remains my need to succeed? I believe it's a part of who I am. The things I do are not because I'm striving for acclaim or striving for, you know, notoriety. This is just what I do. You know, I'm just living, I'm just being me, and I'm creating opportunities. And obviously I haven't got children yet, but I am married. So that will be, I guess, once I do have children, that will be another, you know, a step in the gear. And I think, you know, I'm kind of preparing for the life that I don't yet have, you know, because I want, at that point, you know, I think about it now, you know, I can walk into theaters, I'm an associate with the Royal Shakespeare Company. I can go to theatres, I can see the backstage. These are all things that a lot of people don't really know about. And so for me, the success aspect is not only providing opportunities for myself, but just those who are coming after me as well, to say, you know, I know CJ, and so, you know, I want to be a part of that. So it's just about living authentically in my truth, and, you know, remaining you know, continuing to live in compassion, and just be able to exercise my creativity as much as possible.
Wow. CJ Lloyd Webley.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, bro.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks so much.
The pleasure, man. Thank you.